The plane is on fire. You've got maybe 4 seconds to make a decision that will define the rest of your life. If you even have a rest of your life. The green jump light was supposed to tell you when to go. It never came on. Your jump master just grabbed you by the collar and screamed go. So now you're falling, in the dark, over Normandy, France, and you have absolutely no idea where you're going to land. Over 13,000 American paratroopers jumped into that same darkness on the night of June 5th, going into the 6th, 1944. It was the largest airborne operation in history, and it was, by almost every military metric, a complete disaster before it became a legend. Tonight, you're one of them. Most people know D-Day as the beach, the boats, Omaha, the sand turning red. But 12 hours before those ramps ever dropped, American paratroopers were already deep inside enemy territory, fighting, dying, hiding in hedgerows with no backup, no coordinates, and sometimes no weapons. This is the story of what it actually took to survive the jump. Not the Hollywood version, the real one. 3 levels of survival. 3 chances to die before sunrise. And every single one of them was avoidable had the U.S. Army just gotten a few things right. Before we get into the chaos of that night, you gotta understand what these guys signed up for and what they were told they were signing up for. The 101st Airborne Division, nicknamed the Screaming Eagles, was an elite unit. These weren't your average draftees. These were volunteers who said, yeah, I'll jump out of a moving airplane into a war zone. That takes a specific kind of crazy that most of us will never understand. Their mission on D-Day was designated Operation Neptune. They were to drop into the Cotentin Peninsula in northwestern France, secure the causeways behind Utah Beach, and hold the flanks so the amphibious forces could push inland. Sound clean, right? Tactical. Surgical. Yeah, it was anything but. The planning for the airborne drops was, frankly, a mess. General Maxwell Taylor commanded the 101st, and even he later admitted, in his own after-action reports, that the dispersion of his men was greater than had been anticipated. That's military speak for. We had no idea where half our guys landed. Here's why. The Army Air Force was flying C-47 Dakotas, twin-engine transport planes, in tight formation at low altitude in the dead of night. And then, the moment they hit the coast of France, German anti-aircraft guns lit up the sky like the 4th of July on steroids. Pilots panicked. They broke formation. They sped up to avoid getting hit. Some climbed higher, some dropped lower. And every one of those decisions meant the paratroopers in the back were jumping from the wrong altitude, at the wrong airspeed, over the wrong location. According to the official Army historical record from the World War II archives, over 60% of the 101 ST's paratroopers landed outside their designated drop zones. 60%. Some landed in flooded marshes the Germans had deliberately created by damming the Murderette River. Men drowned in 4 feet of water under the weight of their own gear, unable to get up. Some landed in trees, some on rooftops, some right in the middle of German command posts. And some, like the soldier whose story we're following tonight, landed alone, in the dark, with a broken rifle, surrounded. Okay, you're on the ground now. Let's break down exactly how bad your situation is. Level 1, getting out of the plane alive. The green jump light, your signal to go, was supposed to activate when you were over your drop zone at around 700 feet, at a safe 90 miles per hour. By the time Mo sticks, that's what they called the groups of paratroopers. Actually jumped, planes were flying anywhere between 150 and 300 miles per hour because pilots were gunning to escape the flak. At that speed, when you exit the aircraft, the prop blast hits you like a truck. Men were getting equipment ripped right off their bodies mid-exit. Weapons bags, ammunition containers, even boots gone, tumbling into the dark French countryside without you. Stephen Ambrose, in his landmark 1994 book Band of Brothers, documented accounts from Easy Company, 506 PR, part of the 101st, where soldiers described jumping and immediately watching their main rifle containers disappear into the slipstream. One soldier, Private John Hall, reportedly landed with nothing but a trench knife and 2 grenades. That wasn't an exception. That was Tuesday. Level 2, not getting tangled with your own guys in the air. This one sounds almost funny and until you understand the physics. You've got thousands of men dropping out of planes in close succession. In the dark, parachutes do not have steering wheels. You got two toggles that let you make minor adjustments, but if the wind's pushing you sideways at 15 miles per hour, and you're going where the air takes you. The danger was canopy collision. If you drift into another guy's chute, you collapse his air or yours. Both men plummet. There are documented cases from the Normandy jump of paratroopers found tangled together. Chutes failed on the ground. The Army's own post-war investigation, compiled in the Omaha Beach to Sherboard operational monograph published by the Historical Division in 1947, cited multiple cases of mid-air equipment collisions causing critical jumps to go fatally wrong. And if you managed to thread that needle, if you somehow made it through the flak, the speed, the chaos, and the tangle risk, you still had Level 3 waiting for you on the ground. Level 3, you've landed, directly, on top of the enemy, with a knife. This is where it gets real. Sergeant Harrison Summers, and this one is fully documented in military history, was a soldier with the 101st who landed near Sainte-Marie-du-Mont on June 6th. He gathered a small, scattered group of men he'd never trained with and single-handedly attacked a series of fortified German barracks buildings, one by one, alone, while his reluctant support watched from a distance. He used whatever he had. He improvised. He kept moving. Military historians have called it one of the most audacious individual combat actions of the entire war. But Summers had something. He had a weapon. Now imagine you don't. Your M1 Garand, lost in the drop. Your carbine, also gone. You hit the ground hard. Maybe you twisted an ankle. The crickets are chirping. German voices, maybe 200 yards to your left. And you've got a Mark III trench knife strapped to your boot. What do? The answer, according to the soldiers who actually lived through this, you do what paratroopers were drilled to do from day one. You move, alone if you have to, but you move. The Screaming Eagles had a concept baked into their training doctrine called initiative at all levels. It basically meant, if everything goes sideways, and it will, every individual soldier is expected to assess, adapt, and accomplish the mission with whatever resources they have, even if that's just themselves and a knife. Colonel Robert Sink, commanding the 506th PIR, reportedly told his men before the jump, "You will be scattered. You will be confused. You will be scared. But you have been trained for exactly this moment." They had been. And that training, brutal, repetitive, specific, is the reason any of them made it out. Here's the thing about D-Day that nobody really talks about enough. The airborne operation, by every metric it was supposed to be judged on, failed. The drop was scattered. The objectives weren't fully achieved on schedule. The 82nd and 101st combined suffered over 2,500 casualties in the first 24 hours. General Omar Bradley himself admitted he almost called the whole airborne component of D-Day off before it happened. He was that worried about the losses. And yet, those scattered paratroopers, wandering in the dark with knives and courage and nothing else, they confused the German high command completely. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel's forces had no idea where the main thrust was coming from because men were popping up in firefights across a 40-mile stretch of countryside. Small groups capturing crossroads. Individual soldiers cutting telephone wires. Two-man teams holding bridges. The chaos that was supposed to doom the mission accidentally became its greatest strategic asset. The Germans reported to command, "The enemy is everywhere." They weren't wrong. By the time those ramps dropped on Omaha and Utah at 6:30 a.m. on June 6th, paratroopers had already been fighting for 5 hours. They were exhausted, scattered, beat up, and armed with whatever they could scavenge. And they had help. Private First Class Thomas Meehan III. His C-47 was shot down before he could even jump. He died with his entire stick in the crash. He never got to level 1. Sergeant Bill Garnera. He hit the ground with a broken ankle, grabbed a weapon off a dead German soldier, and kept going for days. These weren't superheroes. There were 19 and 20-year-old kids from Pennsylvania and Texas and Ohio who decided that stopping simply wasn't an option. Historians today largely credit the paratroopers' efforts with saving the Omaha Beach landings from becoming another Omaha. The casualty rate at Utah was dramatically lower. 197 men compared to over 2,000 at Omaha, and the difference, in large part, was those scattered, half-armed, screaming eagles who showed up in the dark and made the Germans' night absolutely miserable. 3 survival levels. Thousands of individual battles. One impossibly good outcome. That's not luck. That's what happens when training, will, and pure American stubbornness collide at the exact right moment in history. Every time I think about those guys, I think about that moment, standing in a doorway 700 feet over occupied France at 1 in the morning with flak going off all around you, knowing that the second you step out, everything is up to you. No GPS, no cell signal, no calling for backup, just training, guts, and the guy next to you. There's something in that story that goes way beyond World War II. It's a reminder of what human beings are capable of when they are absolutely, totally out of options. The 101st Airborne didn't survive that night because everything went right. They survived because they had decided somewhere deep down that they simply wouldn't quit. And maybe that's the only survival skill that ever really matters. If this story hit different for you, drop a comment below. Tell me which level you think you'd struggle with most. Level 1, 2, or 3. I am genuinely curious. If you want more stories like this, real history, real stakes, real people, subscribe. Hit the bell, because I've got a whole lineup of these POV survival docs coming. And trust me, some of them make this one look like a warm-up. I'll see you in the next one.